Dear listeners, now we talk about the post-Mauryan and the Gupta period art and architecture. Why I added the word architecture here? Because this is the period when we start talking about the construction of so many monuments in throughout the country during the kingdoms of so many dynasties which existed in the almost 600-700 years, that is right from 2nd century BCE to the 6th century BCE, when we talk about the Gupta period. So this journey basically when we talk about it, we talk about different dynasties, different periods and throughout the country, because after Ashoka, like Ashoka established the empire, so he had a huge area of the subcontinent which came under his regime. But later on, the country was divided into different parts, were divided into and ruled over by different dynasties. Unless we come to the Gupta period, when again we have a larger sort of empire which was erected by Chandragupta Maurya and Samudragupta and Chandragupta Maurya too. So when we talk about the Gupta period, post-Gupta Mauryan period and the Gupta period art, it's a long journey of almost 600-700-800 years when we start seeing how things evolved. So in this basically when we talk about the in the previous section of the Mauryan art, we talked about the Yakshini, and we saw that how the Didarganji Yakshini was an independent sculpture. Now we look at the relief which was carved out in the Bharhut, which is sort of the similar Yakshini, but in another composition kind of thing. And later on in the Sanchi, we will see that how it again became so different. Also, as I talked about the symbolism which was actually during this period prevalent among the Buddhists, and they I mean symbolize the sermon of Buddha, the stupa as his these monuments. Then again when we talk about the different features of the relief carving which we see, look at it in the Bharhut. Bharhut is again in Madhya Pradesh, and there we have this stupa which existed, and in there are it's not in a very good piece now, and all in the museum, different museums in India and Britain have the relics of these Bharhut stup, which through which we know about it. Here you saw that this is the Sanchi structure of the Sanchi stup, but before this stup there were different things which happened in different form, and the stupas were made basically in the form of the relief in different parts of the country. So you will find that today the present day Sanchi stup is seen in this condition, and this is the sort of a very this is a World Heritage Site also declared by UNESCO. You all know what is a World Heritage Site, I hope, otherwise you can find it out from the UNESCO website. So this stupa is basically the total structure of stup which we have sort of, this is the epitome of the stup architecture which happened during that time. And if you look at the details, how stylized they become, like the refinement which we look at in the carvers, the people who have carved these, the craftsperson or the artisans or the monks, whoever have done this under different patronage also. So this is how they have been shown here. And then when we move to from central India to different parts of India, from North India to West India, and even beyond the present day India, because we also have the dynasties like the Kushana dynasty, which was in the northwestern India part, Kashmir, and up to the Gandhar. Kanishka ruled in a very large section of the subcontinent, and he also was a follower of Buddha, and his many of his people were following Buddhism at that time, and they spread it up to Bamiyan also. So this is where we find that by the time we come before the Gupta period, we have so many dynasties ruling everywhere in the country. And this is we start looking at the independent sculptures of Buddha. And this is also a time later on we will talk about in detail. We will see how Jataka tales became, the Jatak stories became prevalent in the Buddhist monuments. Like in Ajanta and Ellora and Bagh and different, and what are Jatak Kathas? Basically, we believe, the Buddhism believed that before becoming a human being, taking the birth of Buddha as Siddharth in his human life, he had undergone different lives where he was born in different forms, and all those during all these lives of his previous lives, Buddha had done some good deed, and that is called the sort of Jatak stories. So, Jatak stories, you will find that they were also carved in the relief and painted, but the independent sculptures became an identity. And we have, when we talk about this Buddhist sculpture of this period around 1st century CE to 3rd and 4th century CE, the Christian era, we have the major centers in the North India is Sarnath, Gandhar and Mathura, which is also known as these 3 schools of sculptures. And then we have the sculptures of Amravati. I am taking you to different parts of the country. You can look at some historical map in detail and find out. And Amravati is present day, it is in Andhra Pradesh, what we talk about. So, these are the places where Buddhism spread over, and this is the early phase of stupa. Amravati stupa, nothing exists there as to date, because it was all destroyed over a period of time, but we have different parts of the wall and different sculptures of Amravati which are there. So, Nagarjun Konda again in south. So, you can see how from northernmost northwest India to southernmost of the country, the subcontinent of India, and even Sri Lanka also, which we are not covering here, but we all know that Buddhism had spread to other countries by this time, in the southeastern countries as well. So, but we are majorly focusing on the Indian subcontinent and the Indian state. So, Nagarjuna Konda, again we have this panel from one of its stupas which was built during this period before the Gupta period, and there are very good kind of work, the relief work which we can see, the craftsmanship. Then we come to the Western India. You all know that in Western India and especially the Deccan area, there are lots of ranges, mountain ranges which are existing, and in these mountains, which is the Deccani part, that they are not very high, and these were the centers in throughout Maharashtra, present day Maharashtra. We find such caves which existed, whether it was the caves of Ajanta, which is later on, but Kanheri and then Karla, Bhaja, all these caves you will find that they were either Chaitya or Vihar. As we talked about during the Mauryan period, that what was Chaitya? Chaitya were the prayer halls. So, these were huge halls where the Buddhist monks used to sit and pray and meditate for long hours, and then they used to go and reside in the Vihar. Vihar means where they lived. So, these were the, like this is how it looked. There used to be a cave, but later on the pillared entrance was added to it. So, this is how things evolved, this is how things developed in the architecture, in art. So, in the these halls you will find that there are the detailed pillars and there is a facade which is made. We had seen it in the Lomash Rishi cave during the Mauryan period, which is in the Barabar hill near Gaya. So, it was like carved on the entrance was carved, and there was no entrance, there was no gallery to enter the caves. But now we started looking at it, that these Chaitya halls or the Vihara caves in Nasik or Bhaja, they started having a kind of an entrance to it. There was a gallery and then there was an entrance, and the entrance itself it was made in such a way that you can make out whether it is a vihar or a chaitya, because the chaityas will have some kind of a stupa relief or something which made it different, whereas the vihars had the simple pillared structure, and then inside there were caves where these monks used to stay. And this is the view of Ajanta. If you look at it from the top, this is the panoramic view of Ajanta caves. There are 29 caves in Ajanta, which is again a World Heritage Site, and these caves are both viharas as well as the chaityas. And over a period of almost 600, 700 years, these caves were, built. The monks used to live there, they used to carve, they used to make, they were devoted to Buddha, and you will have a whole range of Jatak stories, Jatak tales, either made in the relief form or in the paintings of Ajanta. And these 29 caves are like, you have to get down to go into it. It's a very tough terrain, and there is a like this is a shoehorn kind of C kind of a shape. They are curving take place. These are some of the most important paintings which we have in Ajanta caves. Very sort of, because as we talked about the Yaksh cult and the Yakshini cult, also the Apsara or the demigods, goddesses, that cult also existed in all the three religions which we will see. And these are the paintings, some of the paintings in cave number 17 of Ajanta, which was sort of middle stage of and it took a lot of time. I mean, if you look at the details, and these are done on the fresco, because if we go back and remember how we have the cave paintings in Bhimbetka or the early rock shelters, that the surface of the shelters or the rocks were not treated. By the time we reach Ajanta, 2nd BCE to almost 4th, 5th century CE, a Christian era, we start seeing that how the treatment of the surface was done on the walls. So cave walls were plastered, made refined, and then and this was all a collective work. Lot of people were working together, and they were some of them were experts in painting, some of them were experts in lines, and you can see different hands working. Some people were working as masons to make these, because we start finding the plastering material, and these are called the frescoes. You will learn about it later on in detail, that how frescoes are made. These are some of the ceilings, and then it's all painted in many of these caves. Almost 6, 7 caves are in very good condition, and these paintings. This is again one of the Jatak panels which is there, and I'm not going into the detail because Mahajan Jatak, it's a long story which is being depicted here, the scenes of these stories, and these are all narratives. And then we also have nearby caves. As I talked about the present day Maharashtra, you get lot of caves spread over. So Ellora is again a World Heritage Site, and it's a very unique site where you find all the three religions existing together, in the sense built over a huge span of time. But even you have the Hindu caves of the Hinduism, related to Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. All the three are there. Like you can see that you will have Shiva also, you will have Buddha also there, you have the Kailash temple there also. And this is Elephanta caves, which is sort of, Elephanta is an island which is located near Mumbai. So even there these are built. Actually in these caves lot of sculptures were made during huge period of time. You will see even in Elephanta caves the earlier sculptures were Buddhist, and then later on we find the Mahesh Murti, or the three forms of Shiva, which we call sometimes known as Trimurti also. But that is also one of the caves which is there. Then it was not only in western and northern and south India, it was even in eastern India. We find that Orissa, present day Odisha, was a prevalent they had a sort of, they have all the Buddhist during this period, all the activities which were going on either in the caves or they were built. You can see that how these are near Bhubaneswar, this Khandagiri and Udaygiri caves, where you will see the long verandas were built as shelters, and then inside there were chaitya halls and the for prayer and meditation, and then you also had these viharas where they used to live. So these caves again have lot of relief work which we can see. We do not see so many paintings or the paintings in these caves, but lot of sculptural activities, the relief activities, the masonry which happened, because all the pillars you can see in these, they are made, actually they are man made, and which are carved out of the rocks and caves. So this is how it spread over the throughout the country. We started from Bihar, we moved to the northwest, and then we moved to western India, then we moved in the south, the Deccan part, and this is how it was spread. Like everywhere the activities happened throughout the country. We earlier talked about the Gandhar, this thing, but during the Gupta period and during the Shunga period, we start seeing many of the sculptures which were made in and around Mathura. And Katra mound, or the this is near Mathura, where we find lot of sculptures not only of Buddha, but even some sculptures belonging to the Shaivite, because by that time Hinduism had the different sects. Shaivite sects were there, Vaishnav this thing was there, and then later on we have the even in Jain sculptures are also found from Mathura. And then Jainism also spread in the similar way during this period throughout the country. This is again stylized and a later Buddha head which was found from Takshila in the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. You can see the stylization, how from the previous slide we had seen of Buddha, sitting Buddha, to this bust of Buddha which was this head. And if you look at the details of the parts, the way it was, the treatment, the eyes, the lips, the hairstyle, and the details of the drapery, which also we will see in one of the sculptures, that it became very stylized. It was like the treatment of the drapery became so translucent even in this Sarnath Buddha, and this happened simultaneously in all the three schools we talked about, the Sarnath, Mathura and the Gandhar. So all these areas, it started becoming stylized, it started becoming more narrative, having more elements rather than just having a sculpture. This is kept in the Sarnath Museum in a very good state, and you can look at the mandala or the halo behind the head of Buddha, how it has been carved, the details of the drapery, the sitting position, and there is a narrative in the where the Buddha is sitting, there is these people who are worshipping him. So that is also been shown here in one sculpture. This panel is also there. So this is how it started, and then we come to the later part of Ajanta. This was the Gupta period when these paintings you will see simultaneously. This cave number 1, 2 paintings are, this happened during the Gupta period, which was around 5th, 6th century. When we come to that period, this is the later part of the Ajanta phase, when we start getting these sculptures. You can see the Bodhisattva Padmapani here, and then you have different Jatak stories that I had mentioned earlier. Again they are shown in these, the details are there in of these paintings. Some of them have been restored, or they are not in a very good shape that you can make out, but these are some of the 1 or 2 examples. Again you can find that how the stylization took place, the details have been tried to make the similarly it happens simultaneously, this stylization in the sculptures as well as in the paintings. So those kind of details are you can see in these Yeah. This is again this phase of Ajanta cave number 1, where you have these sculptures. You can look at the compositions, how complex they became. Like right from the beginning, if you look at it, there used to be small panels depicting a few things, but then here the whole story is, you know, built around the sculpture. The Buddha is sitting and the different things are happening around him. How you know, the devotees are you know, praying and things like that, and how everybody is supporting, you know, the Buddha to be, you know, highlighted, and you can see all these details are there in these caves as relief work. So all the panel, like if you look at it, Buddha is surrounded by so many narratives which are simultaneously happening. This was the peculiar thing which happened during the Gupta period everywhere. Then even in this is the detail of the earlier cave we saw, Elephanta cave. So this is the Mahesh Murti, which is the 3 forms of Shiva, but you sometimes it's also known as Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, but iconographically these are the 3 forms of Mahesh is Shiva, so this is dedicated to him. And again you can look at this, that how the details have been worked out in these reliefs. Apart from this, I would like to tell you that uh, even Jainism happened in the Western India, like especially in Gujarat, it spread over Gujarat and Rajasthan. We get so many places, and but at the same time it took a longer post Gupta period. These temples and the sculptures they were built, and then they also had amalgamation, like we saw that how Buddhism and Hinduism and Jainism they work together. But this is the slightly the later phase. In the next this thing we will talk about the post Gupta and the how the Jain sculptures were, you know, developed. I hope that you have got a panoramic view how during the Mauryan period and after the Mauryan period, during the Shung, Satvahan, Karn and even Gupta period, how Indian art and architecture evolved. It grew from a very simple thing to how a complex compositions things started taking place, and this is all today for thank you.